Hello there, welcome to another episode of Combat Arms In Depth. My name is Asian Psycho, aka Doors number 98, and as always I will be your host for yet another in-depth video. In this episode we'll be discussing the first weapon type, as you can see in Combat Arms, the assault rifles, and each of their in-game aspects. Now let's get to it. Assault rifles are by far the most diverse weapon type in Combat Arms. By far there are more unique assault rifles, and assault rifles in general, than there are weapons of any other gun type. It is no wonder that all assault rifles are all unique in their own right and behave just a little differently from the rest, but those subtle differences may be the deciding factor between whether you like it or you hate it. Alright, so now where to begin? We'll start by discussing the generalization of assault rifle stats in Combat Arms. Assault rifles are generally known for their good damage over range and consistent performance as far as damage is concerned. Unless you're firing at targets at extreme distances, usually the damage drop-off will not take more than a few more bullets to knock someone down. But due to Combat Arms' erratic lag and processing, you never know if your rifle will fail you at distance engagements, so always pump a little bit more lead into your target just to be sure. The average damage stat that I can give assault rifles is around 40 or 41, maybe even 42 or 43. The strongest assault rifle technically being the battle rifles such as the M14 Camo and the Gewehr 43, and the weakest obviously being the lowly M16. Assault rifles aren't very well known for their portability. Assault rifles, while not being overtly burdensome, aren't exactly paperweights either. It is recommended that if you have an assault rifle out and you need to get your Forrest Gump on, switch to your knife or something a little bit more portable. In terms of rate of fire, assault rifles vary the spectrum with the range of rates of fire that can be found with assault rifles found in Combat Arms. You can go as slow as the battle rifles, or as fast as the Rec 7. Accuracy on assault rifles is second only to sniper rifles. Most assault rifles tend to be very accurate over range to augment their excellent damage over range capabilities. Simply slap a sight or a scope on your rifle, if you can that is, and you're good to go. Even though the accuracy statistics may range widely, for the most part, for all practical purposes and in ranges, most assault rifles should work at range. The only problems that hinder assault rifle accuracy are extreme distances and tap fireability. Oftentimes, on maps such as Blood Money and Roadkill, distances are too far for bullets to be able to travel, and you will find that even though you're firing straight at a target, your target won't be affected. Some assault rifles have longer ranges than do others. In cases such as these, the accuracy stats on the assault rifles begin to matter slightly. The other factor, tap fireability, also affects long-range capabilities of your assault rifles. Some rifles are easier to tap fire with than others, the G36E, the M41, and the M416 being three of the more optimum weapons to use tap fire with. Other rifles, such as the F2000, the MK16 Scar L, and the AUG-A1 are a little bit more difficult to tap fire with, and sometimes you're just better off just spraying and hope you hit something. Adding on to the accuracies aspect of assault rifles, range. Through an hour-long test that I, my friend Protagonist, and other subs and volunteers have discovered, range is limited to a numerical statistic of 87.5 as pertains to assault rifles in Combat Arms. You can see this number through sites, like the Tri-Sight and the TA1 ACOG. It seems that as if all assault rifles in Combat Arms have a range limit of 87.5, with a few assault rifles having a little bit more or less range than others, but only by, say, a numerical statistic of give or take 0.2. Obviously, the ones having more range are the ones with sniper scopes pre-attached to them. Notable among assault rifles is the Corky's toy gun, which for some odd reason has very minimal damage drop off of range and can still deal a whopping 33 damage at its maximum range compared to almost every other assault rifle's maximum range, or damage at maximum range rather, which deals only like 11 or 12 or 9 damage for some reason. So hence proving that the toy gun is indeed overpowered. This range test can be seen in the follow-up videos showing our tests. Recoil on assault rifles range heavily from extremely unwieldy to extremely manageable. By far, the one assault rifle in Combat Arms that has more recoil than the recoil you would suffer getting hit by a 40-ton wrecking ball is the AN-94, aside from the other battle rifles, of course. That gun is the perfect example of how heavy the recoil can get should you choose to go that way. On the flipped end of the assault rifle recoil spectrum, we have rifles like the FAMAS and M4A1, where recoil is so low you can just basically spray at far medium range and still have a decent chance of killing your opponent. In terms of recoil patterns, almost all assault rifles have either a circular recoil pattern or a vertical then side-to-side recoil pattern. Rarely will you find an exception to this, as assault rifles are very stable in terms of recoil and will not send your aim flying in all directions as long as you are not using an AK variant. Even the battle rifles fare better than these guns. Hipfire spreads are key characteristics of all assault rifles. The type of hipfire spread determines its type. You have probably noticed by now in your combat arms career that the M4A1 and the G36E have different crosshair sizes. Because the game intends the M4A1 to be used for more CQC battles, the M4A1 has a slightly bigger default crosshairs, but a smaller running crosshair size. No, I didn't say maximum spread because your maximum spread is when you jump. Lower recoil weapons like the M4A1, the M416, FS2000, and the SCAR-L have the CQC style crosshairs, while higher recoil weapons like the G36E, XK8, AUG-A1, and AK-47 have the accuracy quote-unquote hipfire spreads, which have nearly perfect accuracy accurate default crosshairs but have larger running crosshairs. To note, the SG550 family is a unique assault rifle family in terms of hipfire spread, for its hipfire spread throughout all its variants behave in a way no other assault rifle behaves, unless I'm missing something of course. Their default crosshairs are the biggest of any default crosshair size found in combat arms assault rifles, and their running crosshairs is also the biggest, even bigger than the accuracy spreads found on the G36C or G36E rather, and the like. However, when jumping, curiously enough, their maximum spread are nearly 25% smaller, meaning that for whatever reason, the SG550 family of assault rifles is quite optimal for bunny hopping. As for recommendations, for those of you who do not have access to NX assault rifles, my most recommended assault rifle is the humble M4A1. With extremely low recoil, my Asian accent's bleeding through. With extremely low recoil and a good damage profile both up close and over range, the M4A1 is by far one of my favorite GP assault rifles. For this reason, any M4 variant that you come across is also very good. And if you so choose to come across an M4A1 SOP mod, then you've come pretty lucky. After the M4A1, I recommend the MK16 SCAR-L. It is a very potent assault rifle at medium range and close range, and you can still tap-fire with it relatively easily, though not as easily as you can with the M4. Lastly, I would recommend the G36E because of its versatility and sheer universality of use in any situation, but given that there is quite an anti-G36C stigma in the combat arms community, I am rather hesitant to recommend the G36E. But if you don't give a flying fuck about what gun you use, then by all means, use the G36E. For those of you who have NX to spare, you have quite an array of assault rifles to choose from. Naturally, if you can get your hands on any NX Rare or Epic, then by all means use them, but assuming that you don't have such overpowered weapons lying around, I suggest a CZA 805. Its damage profile is very reminiscent of an M4A1 variant and offers very good tap-fire ability on top of that. I also highly recommend the MK14 Mod 0 for obvious reasons. AK-like damage, absurdly high rate of fire for a battle rifle, and the accuracy of a battle rifle to combine to make one nearly overpowered rifle, but as of late it has been slightly nerfed, so it's a little bit more balanced, but it still remains a very good assault rifle. Another good NX center assault rifle is the M6A2 SRT, which is very similar statistically speaking to the M416 CQB, with a little bit of quirks of course. And of course, other usual NX standard classics such as the M416 CQB and the G36E Valkyrie, which is basically the same thing as the G36E, are all very good assault rifles as well. And as with the latest supply drop featuring the new Iranian, not Chinese, but Iranian assault rifle, the KH-2002. The KH-2002 is, in my opinion, one of the better NX standard assault rifles in combat arms as well. Well, that will conclude this in-depth episode featuring new assault rifles in combat arms. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I have been your host for this episode of Combat Arms In-Depth, Asian Psycho, aka Toast number 98, and I do hope that you have found this episode useful. In the next in-depth episode, we will be briefly covering the submachine guns, or the SMGs in general, as they are portrayed in combat arms. So see you until then. Yukuri shittetsu ne.